So due to the UFC actually being on at a normal time of day, I ended up having to do a few things like errands around the house and stuff while the prelims were shown, so I missed a couple of those fights. However, I am going to sit here and discuss the ones that I did take notes of. The first one being Jamal Pogues taking on Hamdi Abdelwahab. This fight was just fucking shit. There was a few leg kicks thrown from either side. Abdelwahab gets a takedown, gets warned for some illegal punches to the back of the head. Pogues does absolutely nothing but throw jabs and weak leg kicks throughout the entire fight. Every time Abdelwahab is like throwing anything at Pogues is like reacting like he's like been forced to walk across some hot coals. And yeah, round 3, I noticed at the end of it, they both like pointed at the ground like they're gonna start throwing down for this epic finish, and then they just spend 5 of the 10 seconds just shaking hands and showing respect with each other. They throw like 2 windmill punches and then just embrace. Abdelwahab wins, but honestly, I don't want to see either of these guys fight ever again. So yeah, I skipped the next 2 fights due to being busy. I ended up tuning back in at the Terrence McKinney versus Damir Hadjovic fight. McKinney won this pretty decisively in the first round, being the first fighter that I've noticed to properly utilise the 12-6 elbow rule with great effect. He overwhelmed Hadjovic straight from the start, piecing him up, getting him down, taking him back. Just beats him up, ground and pound finish pretty easily in the first couple of minutes of the fight. The post-fight interview, it was a little awkward. McKinney offers to handshake Hadjovic, well, what looked like Hadjovic, only to kind of ignore him and walk straight past and shake the coach's hand instead, and Hadjovic just awkwardly like walks away. It was really, really weird to watch. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have anything to say. Congratulations to Terrence McKinney on another first round finish and on the birth of his new baby. So the next fight on the card was Shamil Gassiev taking on Thomas Peterson. Watching these two swing punches at each other was kind of just like watching 2 hippos trying to mate. Gassiev wins with an easy first round KO. Not really anything else to say. Congratulations, Gassiev. Hope you get a ranked opponent next time. So next up we had Muhammad Naimov taking on Khan Offley. Naimov did win this by decision. Round 1 he dominated pretty decisively. He avoided basically everything Khan Offley threw at him. He dropped him as well with a counter right at one point. Khan Offley did recover well. Round 2, Khan Offley started a bit better, probably winning this round, pressuring Naimov, lands a good shot, wrestling him up against the cage, doing his best Merab Dvalishvili impressions. But yeah, I would say Khan Offley took round 2. Round 3, Naimov definitely won. Starts the round with a spinning head kick, takes Khan Offley down again, controls his back for the majority of the round. It's pretty much a clear, decisive win for Naimov, but Khan Offley did have his moments in round 2. So next up we have Ziam taking on Mike Davis. Both fighters ended the fight covered in blood, with Ziam sporting a really nasty cut above his left eye, which was clear in his post-fight interview. He did win all 3 rounds on the judges' scorecard. At one point even hit Davis with what was basically the last ride that The Undertaker used, though before he landed, Davis managed to sneak in a nice 12-6 elbow right on the top of Ziam's head. From the start, Davis seemed content to just accept bottom position, instantly pulling guard the second the fight started. The fight did have its moments, and of course blood always makes a fight seem better than it actually was, but overall I'd say it kind of under-delivered whilst having a few decent highlights. Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira on paper was meant to be an absolute fucking war, and it kind of was, but in the way that we weren't expecting it. There was way more wrestling and ground game implemented than I guess anyone else thought going into it. And it turns out that Oliveira has a much better ground game than Nurmagomedov. Basically 1 to 3 rounds with Said throwing and missing a bunch of spinning shit. Oliveira eats a couple of big head kicks throughout the entire fight. It was at least 3, I think. At least 3 head kicks that land on him. There was at one point where he was closing the distance on Said, and Said like lifts up his lead leg and just slaps him in the side of the chin, and he just, he's just like, yeah, whatever, mate, and just carries on pressuring him. It's fucking crazy. Like, that would have knocked anyone out. But yeah, he just eats it. Round 2 starts. Oliveira gets a takedown. Basically just beats him up in the clinch for a bit. Said struggles to find his rhythm at all and just ends up getting basically controlled throughout the entire second round. There is one point where Said goes for like a spinning back fist or spinning something, and he just gets rugby tackled really hard and just gets thrown into the center of the octagon, basically. It was fucking crazy. But yeah, round 3, Oliveira just controls it, threatened ass choke, showing a superior ground game, and ultimately wins the decision, which is not what I expected going in. I thought if anyone was going to get the decision, it was going to be Saeed, and if someone was going to get a finish, it was going to be Oliveira. But yeah, I did pick Saeed Nurmagomedov to win this fight, despite me admitting that I wanted Vinicius Oliveira to. So yeah, I'm happy with the win. After last night's performance, Sergey Pavlovich needs to get off of main cards. I don't want to see this guy on a main card ever again. He's absolutely awful. He's got totally exposed by Tom Aspinall, and since then he's just been on a massive decline. Yes, he didn't arguably win. He definitely won his fight in terms of how you score a fight, but let's be real, none of us were winners watching that. It was absolutely garbage from start to finish. Pavlovich would rock Rosenstrike and just not do anything at all to follow up. Just laid on him for essentially 3 rounds, just throwing rabbit punches on him, doing absolutely nothing. The ref is telling them at least 4 times, come on guys, like you need to do something, and they're just stood there staring at each other. It was a weird performance from both guys. It was almost like none of them actually wanted to get hit. It very much reminded me of Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. But yeah, Sergey Pavlovich wins. I hope whoever he fights next just absolutely sleeps him, because he's terrible to watch, and I have lost any sort of interest in watching that dude fight. As for Jairzinho, just go and fight on the prelims again, bro, because that was fucking horrendous. So I believe this is probably the most disappointing fight on the main card, and it's not because it was the worst fight of the main card. I don't think it was by far the worst fight. It was just the one that had the most hype and under-delivered the most. MVP taking on Shara Bullet Magomedov. Now, MVP wins the decision quite decisively, winning every single round except on one judge's scorecard where he scored it 29-28. But yeah, this was quite a clear victory for MVP. Shara Magomedov just didn't get anything off on him whatsoever. MVP did land the much bigger shots. I do think MVP should probably just stay at middleweight. He keeps talking about going to welterweight and winning the belt there, but I think there's a lot of unfavorable matchups at welterweight for him, whereas at middleweight there's a lot more fights that are winnable. MVP versus Sean Strickland, MVP versus Jared Cannonier, MVP versus Israel Adesanya, MVP versus Nassourdine Imavov. There's other strikers out there like Kai Baralho. There's really good fights for MVP at middleweight, whereas I don't think there is so much at welterweight. MVP wins the decision. Shara Magomedov kind of got exposed, showed that he has absolutely zero ground game or want to learn how to implement it in any way. If there was going to be a fight in the UFC where we were going to see his grappling, it would have been this one, and he just chose not to. So yeah, Shara Magomedov's, I don't think he's going to ever win a belt, especially at middleweight. I think Dricus would absolutely fucking ragdoll him on the ground. So, yeah, I'm not even sure he'd beat someone like Sean Strickland. I think Sean Strickland in 5 rounds would absolutely tire him out and destroy him. So, yeah, let's just talk about the main event, because this fight was kind of shit. So the main event, Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov. Izzy starts in classic Izzy fashion, throwing good leg kicks, body jabs, using his footwork to kind of avoid Nassourdine's strikes. He defends multiple takedown attempts and outstrikes Imavov over the first round. Round 2 starts, and Imavov kind of like pokes Izzy in the eye. I don't know if Izzy is trying to, do this Alex Pereira thing where he was trying to like wave it off and act like he was doing something cool, and then it just backfired. But either way, Imavov hits him with an overhand and then finishes him up against the fence with an uppercut and some ground and pound. Izzy does get straight back up and kind of argue the stoppage, but he is quite humble and just accepts the loss. But I'm not really sure what's next for him now. He fumbled against Pereira in the first fight. He checked out after Strickland dropped him in their fight. He's been submitted by DDP. Now he's been knocked out by Imavov. Hopefully he can have a couple more good fights going forward, but yeah, I'm not really sure what's next for him. That's my breakdown of UFC Saudi Arabia. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section below what you think's next for Israel. I will see you guys in the next one.